Hello again, rabid internet fan base. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hemingway Land YouTube channel. So, as I mentioned in last week's video, I've got a lot to talk about, a lot on my mind. I'm going to table some of these things until a future video. I will, however, say, announcement, people. Coming up in a little over a week, on July 30th, we've got National Cheesecake Day. Yes, people, as you guys know, I always like to give a one-week heads up on these seminal days on the calendar, specifically so they don't catch any of you off guard. And so you do have time to prepare, perhaps do a little extra cardio, a little extra high-intensity interval training, perhaps flip over a few extra monster truck tires you have laying around your backyard. Whatever. But the point is, next Saturday will be a day of indulgence for anyone, such as myself, who loves delicious, delicious cheesecake. I, of course, will be making a trip to my local cheesecake factory, where I will likely be sitting down for some of their coconut cream pie cheesecake, which is extraordinary. So mark your calendars, people. Next Saturday, July 30th, National Cheesecake Day, and do leave a comment about what flavor of cheesecake you'll be indulging in. Now, with the announcement out of the way, before we get started, I want to take a moment to address something that's it's been on my mind recently because it's been annoying me. And in the interest of some form of catharsis, I figured I'd share it here with you people and get your thoughts. So, recently, as many of you know, James Caan died. And I was reading a number of tributes and lists ranking his best films. And a little fun fact about me: I am a sucker for lists. Oh, lists on the internet ranking movies, particularly. I will drop everything I'm doing to read them, and usually get very, very annoyed. This most recent example was no exception. So first off, let me say, as you can imagine, all of these lists pretty much across the board had The Godfather at number 1. Michael Mann's Thief at number 2, and typically, rounding out the top 3 of best James Caan films was either Misery or Brian's Song. Whatever the case, as I went through all of these lists, I noticed most of the films were the same, list after list, and I couldn't help feel that this was not something born of genuine consensus, but rather laziness. And when I dug a little deeper, I found that most of these films were, of course, ranked by the number of tomatoes they have on Rotten Tomatoes, because this is how modern artistic criticism works anymore. It used to be stars, then it was thumbs, now it's tomatoes. What'd you think of that opera? Oh, I loved it. I gave it 9 tomatoes. What'd you think of that new symphony? I didn't like it at all. I only gave it 2 tomatoes. You get the point. Heaven forbid we struggle to be knowledgeable or articulate about art. Whatever the case, as I was going through the lists and the various write-ups on these lists, I couldn't help feel that the average person writing the list probably never saw half these movies, not only because they missed some genuinely great films like Way of the Gun, and some of the deep cuts, people, like Gardens of Stone, Flesh and Bone, For the Boys, etc., but because I pretty much assume anyone writing blogs online ranking movies is in all likelihood 22 years old, unemployed, former film student who hasn't seen a movie made prior to 2005. And nothing, I felt, better illustrated this point than what was written about El Dorado, or rather, what wasn't written. So, a little background. El Dorado, for those of you who don't know, was one of James Caan's first big roles. He was like third billing to John Wayne and Robert Mitchum. It was a big break for a young actor. And it's not a great movie. It's not a great Western. I wouldn't even rank it highly among John Wayne Westerns. I'll spare you my thoughts on it, but I think it was made about 20 years too late, and it's probably a better script than a movie. Well, anyway, there's a scene in the film in which James Caan pretends to be Chinese. Let me say that again. James Caan pretends to be Chinese. And as you can imagine, that scene, however anodyne it may have been in 1966, has not aged well. It's not as bad as Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's, but that's largely due to the fact that it's over and done with in about a minute. Whatever the case, the people who write these lists can never resist tripping over themselves to show you exactly how enlightened they are by judging everything through their modern socio-political worldview. And the fact that nobody pointed out that scene or took time to kick a dead man to prove exactly how much better they are than people from 60 years ago tells me that they never saw the movie. So in summation, I have seen more James Caan movies than the people who wrote these stupid lists. Hemingway, was any of that necessary? Probably not, guys. Probably not. I acknowledge, okay? At least not for anything other than catharsis. But with all that off my chest, feel free to leave a comment, guys, about your favorite James Caan movie, besides The Godfather. We all know The Godfather. It's arguably one of the 5 best films ever made. Aside from that one, what's your favorite James Caan movie? So 2 assignments this week, guys. Cheesecake and James Caan. Comment on both. Land, not so much. Nobody ever comments on that. Don't bother being the first. But the other 2, knock yourself out. And with all that, out of the way, we are back in Nevada this week, people, with 3 new properties in ba-boom, Humboldt County. More specifically, people, we've got 3 new lots going live this week in the Paradise Valley Rancho subdivision, each roughly 5 acres in size and priced between $17,000 and $19,000 respectively. And where is the Paradise Valley Rancho subdivision, pray tell? Well, when we go to the Google Maps, you will see that it is located up here just east of US 95 and 20 minutes north of one of the top 5 most happening towns in northwest Nevada, Winnemucca. So first, guys, just to give you a breakdown, this is a pretty well-developed little residential community full of some family farms and small agricultural operations. The entire subdivision has got well-maintained roads, in some cases paved, in some cases gravel, but either way, very easy to get around out here. Additionally, as you can see from all the photos of the developed home sites, this region boasts residential power lines up and down most all the roads and underground utilities. In fact, all the properties we're listing today have one or both of these either at the lot line of the parcel or in very close proximity. So, of course, should make it a lot easier to develop. Speaking of close proximity, as noted, we're only 20 minutes outside of a major town, so of course we're also very close to big box stores for groceries and supplies, for everything you'll need to develop the land. And we are just under an hour south of the Oregon border, in case you want to go hang out up there. And it should be noted, guys, I mentioned small farms and ag operations. This area isn't zoned with the kind of permissiveness for commercial endeavors the way the other sub we have out here, Grass Valley Ranchos, the way that one is. But there's a lot of exceptions and conditional use permits for pretty much anything related to farming and ranching, whether that be selling what you grow or breeding and raising livestock, commercial feed yards, auction yards for animals and equipment. The list goes on. But the point is, if you're looking for a good chunk of land in this region, nothing too huge, but something big enough where the neighbors are close but not too close, where you can operate your own small farm or farm support services, these are excellent lots for this in a pretty nice, quiet community where I think you're going to find you're surrounded by a lot of like-minded people. So, worth checking out, guys. And finally, guys, do want to point out that while we've got 3 lots going live this weekend, 2 of these 2, are adjacent and can be purchased individually or together if you're looking for a larger chunk of land. With all that said, going live on the website next week, we will be back in New Mexico with some new properties in a region you guys really like, where we haven't had listings at in a while. I would say almost 2 years, in fact. And some small dollar properties that everybody is crazy go nuts about, and which usually sell out 2 minutes after midnight. So, look alive next week, people. With all that said, thanks as always for watching, and we will see you in next week's video.